Can you first start off by saying your name and when you were born and start with my name is?
My name is Jose Gonzalez. I was born in August of 1963, and it's been a long period since I've been here, so I'm enjoying it as long as I can. My family first came to Venice. My father in '57, and my mother she was in Venice in the early '50s. My mother came from Texas. She's Texas born, in a town called La Steca, small town out that way. My father was born in Mexico, Monterrey, in a small town called China. Venice was a whole lot of fun. I mean, kids were everywhere. People knew everybody. Everybody would say hi to each other. It was a peaceful environment when I grew up in Venice. Of course, there were the hippies, there were the African American people, there were the Latino people, Asian people. It was a mixture here in Venice. That's why I think this area became really, I could say unity, because we all knew each other and we all got along with each other. And we accepted each other. Whoever you were, that's who you were. But you have to earn your respect as well. You can't just come in there and take things. You had to earn it. And that's how Venice is all about. We were on our block. Our block was Cabrillo over here in the 1500 block when I grew up. And we would hang out the canals. We would hang out at the beach. We would hang out pretty much just in this area here. I would say, because if you cross the tracks, you're in a different side of town. So you had to really know people to really get from one side to the other without being harassed or bullied. But if you knew your own people in your own area, you were always accepted. But that's how I've got my experience of living in Venice. But Venice, and I was mostly by the beach area, because 1500 block is right behind Abbey Kinney, so in that side.
You mentioned hanging out in the canals. What were the canals like in the 1970s or the late 60s whenever you first remember it?
The first remembrance of the canals was maybe the early 70s. And of course, there were the biker gangs there. That was pretty much their territory. And friends of mine, of course, that I went to school with at elementary school. But the canals wasn't the really best place to live at the time. It was, maybe one of the cheaper spots, to tell you the truth. But it was an experience because, like I said, everybody was together. Everybody knew each other. No matter if you were a gang member or a bicycle Hell's Angel or whatever, you were considered. As long as you had respect, they wouldn't mess with them. Nobody would mess with you, right? It was all like that. And like I said, I knew a lot of the kids, got along with them. Just hanging out the canals at the beach. So it was a good time. In fact, the Dogtown guys used to go down our street when we were kids. But the young, like teenagers, but the younger kids, they didn't accept those guys, so they would always chase them off the block. And those, they were so fast that they just took off, and they never caught them. But we would see that the Dogtown skater guys, they would come down our block all the time. But these guys were all around here all the time, so you would see them at the beach. You would just say hi to them, whatever. You got to know them. But I was never into surfing, but I know a lot of surfers. I was never into skateboarding, but I tried it here and there, but I'm not no ace at it. But we got along pretty much with everyone. We got along with the Hare Krishnas. They would always be at the beach. We would get entertained by them. We would hang around with the hippies. The hippies were the stoners back in the days. We didn't know what was going on, but they had all their beautiful colors. The Africans had their colors on. They're really nice. You would just look at that stuff. Like I said, I'm into colors because of that period of time. I guess I've seen so many different colors that they really catch my attention. And maybe at the time too, your eyes are more brighter. So I absorbed a lot of that. But no, everybody, in my opinion, pretty much got along. I mean, there was mixtures of different white people and Mexican people, Asian people. There were Indians. There were a lot of Native Americans here at the time. So it was something that you just grew up with and enjoyed it, At least I did. Okay, the Bird Boys of Venice was considered a group of youth that back in my time, that were into pigeons. Pigeons, these pigeons were a special breed of pigeons that you would fly them in a group and they would flip somersaults. And to this day it's still going on, but it's not as popular as it once was. with the youth. It's still it's still a hobby that a lot of people do get into it, but this hobby got me out of trouble because otherwise I would have been with the gangs, or I would have been doing other things that would have, took me away from it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I knew gang members and I did other things that took me away from hobbies, but this was one of my hobbies that kept me focused on, living a decent life. You got to have a hobby, they say, and that's one of them that I dig. But yeah, this was fun. Now it became a business because a lot of people make money off them. The pigeons, they sell them, but these pigeons are something that colors. Remember, I was telling you about colors. They bring out colors, and you can breed them the way you want. You get them to where you're enjoying them and having fun with them, just watching them fly and watching them flip, and that's what you want if you're into this kind of business or hobby. But the thing is that it got to a point where it's a little bit too expensive now for a lot of people, and that's why the youth aren't really into it anymore like they used to be. But there's still people out there who have them.
Can you please talk about what is the Traquero Monument, and then how your involvement in it, how it got started, and just kind of tell that story? Yeah.
The Traquero Monument is representing railroad track layers back in the 1800s, early 1900s, that were here in California, that would come out and do the railroad systems would bring these laborers, immigrants, cheap pay, and they would bring them out here to do the railroad tracks. These people at the time, you could bring your wives, you paid for a visa, whatever, for your family to come over, your wife. They would come and stay with their husbands and live in the box carts or ranches. And as there was no roads here. This was all railroad tracks or horse trails. So as the time went on, a lot of children were being born here, Americans now. Now you figure they're born in America, you get that right of being American born. So a lot of these kids were born in the fields, in their camps, in trailers, whatever you want to call it. This represents them. It represents the work that they did. It represents them being known and remembered. Because like I said, once history's gone, you will not remember it. If history's written, sometimes the books get tossed in the trash or burned. This is how life is. But if it's some kind of monument, some kind of a memorial, it may never disappear. The people will always remember or ask that question, what's it's all about. The Traquero Monument is something that it's gonna be good for Venice, because Venice has a lot of art here, and a lot of people, this is the way not to let it be forgotten, because I've seen so much art around here that when I got this from Laura Gonzales, she mentioned it to me, and I said to her, this is a good idea. We got to get this going on. And it was just an idea that came up with her that I heard about it. And, I said that we should keep going with this. And yeah, and she's a very hard worker at this monument. That's taken us a while to get to where we got to go. But once it's completed, it's going to be a really big plus point for Venice, in my opinion. This artist is a famous designer in Mexico, Jorge Marin. He's a really well-known sculptor. I mean, I'm sure you can look him up on the internet. But this guy has a lot of sculptures all over the world, so he's well-known. So it'll be built in Mexico, or assembled in Mexico, or sculptured, and then it'll be transported over here to Venice, California. Its foundation will be at the Windward Circle. Okay, right now there's a statue there called the Graham statue, I think it is. I can't remember his name, but he's also Robert Graham. There you go, and he's also a Latino sculptor. So whatever reason, that used to be the Stoner Circle and when we used to go over, all the people go out there and just get stoned. But one day I seen that sculpture there, and I'd never thought nothing of it. They used to have the gondolier there, but all the kids started vandalizing it. They had to lock it up and put it on the side. But that gondolier goes back to Venice too for a long time. That's going to be considered, in my opinion, sculpture, the sculpture circle there. It could be something that represents Venice altogether. A lot of people, a lot of tourists are going to like to be around. They'll like to see something like that. And the way we have this sculpture being designed, it's going to be designed for a lot of people to enjoy it. It's going to be there for a long time. You know, like I said, it's a monument. We might not, the Venice people might be all gone, but something like this will stay. Like I was telling you, Venice Beach will never go away. The beach is always going to be here. But who's to say who's going to come in and tear all the places down and make nothing but condos? You know, that's how life is. You know, sometimes we're here today and tomorrow we're gone.